Hello out there and good morning traders. It is April 9th, 2024, and welcome to the Apteros DMI. So, taking a look at our recap from yesterday, we were talking about different scenarios. Scenario one was that we kind of remained inside this area here and rotated back and forth. Scenarios two and three were more or less breaks of these zones and continuations out of that area, heading out into these rotational extremes where we were monitoring those lines in the sand for more extended rotation. So what's actually happening here in the ES is that we are seeing balancing, and we're seeing balancing inside of some key value areas. So as we continue to balance inside of this, any breaks in or out of these zones become interesting because we end up going to the edges to test the bigger picture rotational ideas, so or balanced area. So that's kind of what's going on in the DMI. You can see how everything played out yesterday. Not a really exciting session for us. Coming into the open here, kind of just finding some buyers right up into our bearish, first line in the sand type of zone where we have a bearish trade idea here. Just comes up close to it and sells off, and then just kind of meanders and goes to the side for the rest of the day. So not much in terms of what was going on there, but in terms of trading, the best opportunity really was from these highs going along with this bearish reference here and paying attention to scenario one, really, where that is the what is picture, and scenario two and three really needed breaks out of these areas before you can get involved with them, really. So with that in mind here, this is our best opportunity to the short side. It doesn't quite traverse all the way to the downside to get to this main target area. So just some good MFE there and pretty much sideways movement until the end or close of the session. All right, let's take a look at what's going on today. So today we have a kind of a similar situation as yesterday. We're still balancing inside of an area here. So this is really where our balance is in the short term. And then we have a much larger term balance. So it's kind of, balancing inside of balancing. The difference is that if we break out of the short-term balance, we have to kind of take a look at the landscape of where that break occurs. So the general idea here is this is the main balance area in between these bear and bull little references here. As this market breaks to the upside, it's still not out of the balancing area in this little zone here. So it's still kind of in that scenario one, which is going to be basically balancing inside of these zones, right? That's kind of the overall balance that we can find ourselves in today. Scenario two and three, well, scenario two would be a break to the upside of this whole area, right? So we break out, get up above, and then we could start to look to the bullish side of things if we get and hold above that little neutral zone. And that would send us up into this line in the sand where we would monitor for bearishness, and if it fails, bullishness up above. The all clear kind of for the bulls is really out here, a little bit more in that open space. The all clear for the bears is kind of out here in that open space. In between, what we end up seeing is breaks from balance and heading into extremes where the bigger picture, the higher time frames become involved, and their bias in terms of what we see in the narrative becomes involved as well. So it's a complicated picture in terms of trading today, but not so much in terms of clarity. We know we kind of can see exactly what's happening, so the clarity is there. It's just a complicated scenario because what ends up happening is if this is your short-term information, this is your short-term balance area, and you start breaking out of it, you have to monitor the intraday environment for how strong that break is. And of course, like little minor peaks or wicks out of that area, that's not true acceptance outside of those zones. So, believe it or not, the best plan today in terms of trading tactics is to be a little bit more patient, not necessarily jump on the first move that you may see looking in one direction. Because that little bit of patience might offer you a better, more clear opportunity later in the session. So, the general scenarios, we'll go back over them real quickly here because I know this is a little bit more complicated. Scenario one, you are still kind of inside of a balancing zone in this area. So you're generally bearish from here, generally bullish from these areas. Once you get outside of that with scenarios two and three, so scenario two we'll cover first, as this market, if this market continues to push, then you start to see a little bit of room to the upside until you run into more bearishness. So with scenario two, the upside is kind of limited, but this is the overall destination for it. It's this bear zone. From there, in scenario two, you have to monitor this line in the sand for bearishness or bullishness. Bearishness would be the immediate what is picture, so that would be the acceptance on it. So you'd be looking for bearishness at this area. If this line in the sand broke down or broke up actually, then that would be a little bit more of a clear bullish sign for today, heading up into this overall stretch bullish target. Okay, so that's kind of the layout for scenarios 1 and 2. With scenario 3, you would essentially be looking for a breakdown below this bullish zone here, and then that would be kind of the all clear into this neutral reference for the stretch target there. So like I said, a lot of balancing happening here, and there really isn't an all clear until you kind of break outside of this balance area. Other than that, you're still inside of a rotational, situation. So scenario 1 is the what is picture, even still at this point, because we haven't accepted outside of that balance area and kind of held outside of it for a little while. You can either do it with time. In other words, this market could hold outside of there for an hour or so, or you could do it with rhythm, where we end up seeing something like a move like this that goes out, and then you start to see that acceptance picture changing. And then if you get a pullback before you head to the target, those are opportunities for long ideas coming back into these references and then heading out to this target. So those are the general scenarios in terms of what's evolving in the narrative, and that's the analysis for today in terms of trading. Trade well out there, mind your risk, and it is kind of a complicated trading scenario today. So exercise patience and exercise, really sticking to the basics, looking for acceptance, waiting for a strong intraday environment for you, no matter how you do that, and then taking trades that are completely within process. And that would be kind of the best thing to do for today. All right, trade well, mind your risk. Let's get after it.